This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. So let's mention where we are, by the way. Later this same day, June 14th, we're going to be in Baltimore, Maryland at the Civic Center. Going to draw 5,500 fans as we see Chief Wahoo McDaniel going to take on Thunderfoot here. The main event there in Baltimore was Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard in a non-title barbed wire match.
Wow.
We also had Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey taking on Wahoo McDaniel and Ron Garvin. We had Arn Anderson fighting Manny Fernandez to a time limit draw. We should mention that same day, the UWF was running down in New Orleans, and they had a lot of the talent there in New Orleans, not in Baltimore, including singles action for Robert Gibson against Baron Von Raschke. And I know what you're thinking. Well, why would he be in singles? It's because Flair is working with Ricky Morton.
Right.
We would also see Dusty Rhodes team with Bill Watts and Dr. Death.
Whoa.
To take on the Russian contingent. The undercard included this fun little match to mention: Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts, the Freebirds, and they pick up a win over the Blade Runners, a young Ultimate Warrior and Sting.
Wow.
The next,
now that is back in time, man.
That's history, baby.
Yeah, it is. Good stuff.
On the 15th, we're back in Wilmington, North Carolina at Legion Stadium. We've got the Midnight Express taking on the Rock and Roll Express in a non-title 2 out of 3 falls match. The following day on the 16th, we're in Greenville, and we've got Dusty Rhodes teaming with Magnum TA to defeat the Midnight Express in a lumberjack match. Of course, tag title's not on the line. The Rock and Roll Express would be able to pick up a win over Tully and Arn, who at the time, as you just saw, are the national heavyweight champion and the television champion. And on the 17th, we did a television taping, and we're going to be talking about this a lot here in the coming weeks. It's Greenwood, South Carolina, and there's a segment filmed here where Big Bubba throws down Baby Doll, and Dusty Rhodes runs out, smashes a wooden chair over Bubba's head. Bubba doesn't flinch and adjusts his hat. And then, of course, moments later, Magnum TA comes out with 2 shovels, and boy, is that symbolic or what? And Jim Cornette and Bubba leave the ring. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. The main event that night, it was a dark match. It's Ricky and Robert taking on Flair and Tully. But what a big time taping that was. But the show keeps going. Raleigh, North Carolina, the next day on the 18th in Dorton Arena. Your main event there is the Midnight Express taking on Ron Garvin and Wahoo. That same day, the world champion was in Miami Beach. He's all over the place. We've got Lex Luger, who is the Southern champion down there in Florida. He's going to pick up the win over Ric Flair. Now, Flair's world title was not at stake. It was only Lex Luger's local Southern championship. On the undercard, and this is worth noting because of what's going to happen in coming years, Stan Lane wins a battle royal.
You were talking before the show ended here about the venues, and Dorton Arena in Raleigh, man, I don't know if that place is still there. Worst
Historic.
ever. Worst ever.
But it was historic.
It was the worst place ever to wrestle. Ask anybody who ever wrestled there. Glass building. JR and I were talking about just a couple of weeks ago. I said, you remember Dorton Arena in Raleigh? He went, oh, worst place ever. No air conditioning.
Opened in 1952. I'll have you know.
It's still there?
Yeah.
Whew. You talked about Legion Field here in Wilmington, North Carolina. That's still around. That's a 6,000. I looked it up. A 6,000 seat outdoor stadium because Wilmington never did have a big arena back then. Wilmington's a great city, man. Great beach city. And,
it was designated as a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark by the American Society of Civil Engineers in 2002.
What, Dorton Arena?
Yeah, it's a cool looking building.
Yeah, I'm glad it looks great. Stand on the outside and look at it. Stay out. You wonder if they could put an extra couple $1 million in it to have an air conditioning system.
You wonder if you could, quit being such a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Okay. It was the fucking worst. It was, you couldn't even breathe in that place.
Tell me about all the buildings you built. How many awards did they win?
Oh,
here's what you built. You built Chris and Matt Schiavone. What'd the civil engineer say about them shits? I bet they need a little air conditioning.
No, they said, go back, son, and redesign something else for us.
I'm going to quantum leap your ass back in time.
Yep.
We're going to get some air conditioners in Dorton Arena, and we're going to get that windsock to keep from coming off for you every time you mount up.
Don't worry about it.
By the way, let's run through the other towns as we're marching through. We got through the 18th. The 19th, we're in Columbia, South Carolina at the Township Auditorium. We're in Hillsville, Virginia on the same day. But buddy, this stands out like a sore thumb. The Hillsville, Virginia show. And I've told you guys for years here on the show, don't ever go to Virginia. It's a piece of shit state. Nothing good ever came out of there.
Christ.
The only good thing to come out of Virginia is the interstate. Anyway, just kidding. That's for Tony. Jimmy Valiant's working with Shaska Watley there, and the Midnight Express are working with Manny Fernandez and Hector Guerrero. Shout out to San Antonio. They drew 600 people. 600 people.
That's right on the North Carolina border, though. Also,
Richmond, Virginia, the very next day, June 20th, we've got Dusty and Magnum taking on the Midnight Express in a non-title bunkhouse match, and that goes on last. And right before that, we had Flair teaming with Tully to take on the Rock and Roll Express in a Texas Tornado match, and of course, Ole Anderson's going to get involved. Magnum would be working with Ivan Koloff in a Texas Death Match. We had Arn working with Ron Garvin in a tape fist match. It's an interesting show, an interesting time in the company. And then we'll be back next week where I believe we're going to see Ric Flair in-ring action, which is pretty rare for TBS, but it's happening next week right here on the show.
Yeah. I was thinking about that 600, paid, gate.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned there was always, there'd be a spot show. There was an A card and a B card.
Yeah.
Ric Flair and Dusty and Rock and Roll Express normally on that. And usually on the B card, it was Jimmy Valiant, Raging Bull, Paul Jones's men. And that really didn't draw like the others. They had to have those all together for it to draw. They couldn't draw on their own. And that was, I mentioned Henry Marcus, and I mentioned this before. He always bitched. Only thing I get is Boogie Woogie Man and the Raging Bull and Paul Jones. Nobody wants to see that shit. Well, they certainly didn't want to see it in Hillsville, Virginia, did they?
No, they did not.
No, they did not. So we ran 2 shows, but maybe we shouldn't have, because, well, they had payoffs back then, right? And they didn't pay trans. So the only overhead would have been the building. So they probably didn't lose that much money that night, I would think.
Well, hopefully you guys aren't losing money listening to us. We hope we've entertained you and contributed to your day and overall health and wellness. That's what we're all about. We want to put smiles on faces, and we hope we've done that today. And we're going to continue down this march of 1986. Next week, we'll be covering the June 28th edition, or I'm sorry, the 21st edition. Apologies. And then we'll hit the 28th, and then we're doing the old Great American Bash show from 1986 in Charlotte.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very special event for us here on What Happened When. I'm fired up about it. You and I've been talking about it for a little while, and it's almost here. So mark your calendars, boys and girls, just a few weeks away from Great American Bash in Charlotte. But right now, Tony, it looks like it's about that time.
It is about that time as we go out to the elephant door and we see the elephants standing there themselves. Oh, no, it's Dave Silva. It's Conrad Thompson. You hillbilly heathen suckers. We're desperately out of time. See you next week on What Happened When. We come to you each and every Wednesday on Cumulus, but on Mondays exclusively on
Patreon, patreon.com/WHW Monday. And of course, adfreeshows.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.